Thank you very much indeed, Brian, for that introduction, and a good morning to all of you. I hope you're looking forward to a good day, a day of lots of good discussion, not to mention the Twitter traffic, as a fully signed up Twitterer, if that's the correct terminology. I'll follow the hashtag with interest later on. I'm going to give you some thoughts this morning from the government perspective, but just to pick up on Brian's introduction there, I heard with interest reference to electronic voting. I'll be very interested later on to hear the kind of themes that emerge from your discussions today, and obviously the results of the votes, because it's important in government that we, while having a very clear idea of what we want to achieve through infrastructure investment, that we're also open to ideas from experts in the field about how we maximise the impact and the benefit, both social and economic, of that investment for the benefit of people across the country. I was quite interested in the title of the conference today, Truths and Myths, and I think that's a great title, and it should give you, I think, an ideal basis on which to have a very frank discussion about the impact of capital investment later on today. I certainly believe that the conference should and will provide the perfect opportunity to discuss the social benefits that come from infrastructure investment as well as the economic benefits, because I think it's undoubtedly true that we take for granted the importance of the economic benefits of infrastructure investment, but the social benefits, while they are equally, sometimes more important than the economic benefits, they are not as widely appreciated, and certainly not traditionally as widely discussed. So I think this is a good opportunity today to redress that balance. Speaking from the government's perspective, we're very clear that we want to ensure, particularly for our disadvantaged communities, that the benefit the benefit to social and economic growth through our investment in infrastructure are equally recognised and valued. I want to talk firstly just about the scale of our investment in capital infrastructure. Clearly, and I'm not about to embark on a moan about how tough times are, but we all know times are tough financially, and that is particularly true of capital investment. Whatever the difficult climate we live in around revenue spending, you can multiply that by several times when it comes to capital investment. But notwithstanding that, we're determined as government that we do everything we can to maximise investment in our infrastructure, in our schools, our roads, houses and hospitals, because we do believe, and I'm sure this is a belief shared by everybody in this room, that infrastructure investment is fundamental to delivering social and economic growth. We know that investment supports jobs through the construction phase of a project, but for the long term, once those projects are in use, that investment is what enables businesses, communities and the economy and society generally to grow and to flourish. So we're using all levers at our disposal to maximise investment and to support economic and social growth. Our spending plans are ensuring that spending is targeted as effectively as possible to benefit communities and the people who live in them. So I'll be particularly interested to hear feedback from today on what you think the priorities investment are. We plan over this spending review to invest over £10 billion in capital investment, and that's good for the economy, it's good for the construction industry, which we know benefits from certainty, the kind of certainty that we've tried to give through the infrastructure investment plan. As I said earlier on, we are coping with significant reductions in capital spending, but notwithstanding that, we're working very hard to maintain continuity of investment plans, in particular by supporting the major infrastructure priorities like the Fourth Replacement Crossing, the new Southern General Hospital in Glasgow and our Schools for the Future building programme. And these large, and they are all very large, public sector contracts have been awarded with both an economic and a social focus, and they will, some of them already are delivering positive outcomes for local people and local communities. So for example, if you look at the investment of almost £1.6 billion in the Fourth Replacement Crossing, that's will directly support 1,200 jobs. There'll also be 45 vocational training positions every year, 21 professional body training places, more than 40 positions for the long-term unemployed. So far, more than 110 places for training and the long-term unemployed have already been generated by the construction. The investment of round about £840 million in the New South Glasgow Hospital will support 1,500 jobs on site, and that project established a number of very important key economic targets as part of the project delivery, again with a particular focus on targeted training and recruitment. And to date, the project has delivered just under 200 new entrants, including more than 50 apprenticeships, and it's already supported over 140 work placements for young people with dedicated engagement programmes for local primary and secondary schools. So making sure that that economic impact translates into the social impact of getting people, young people and the long-term unemployed into work. And if you look beyond construction-related training, the South Glasgow Hospitals project is also supporting a centre for healthcare excellence at the nearby Cardonald College. Again, very focused on equipping young people with the skills and the competencies to pursue a future career in healthcare, because if you've got a massive hospital on your doorstep, you want to have the local skills and aptitudes that will provide the workforce for that hospital well into the future. We're also, in addition to these big directly funded projects, investing £2.5 billion in the non-profit distributing project pipeline and through the Hub programme through the Scottish Futures Trust, and Peter Reiki from the Scottish Futures Trust is with you today. The Scottish Futures Trust promotes a consistent community benefits approach across the NPD programme. It encourages project teams to incorporate very specific requirements that enable future and, crucially, measurable community benefits. So each project includes a community benefit clause seeking commitment to training and to development, and that approach will deliver 700 work placements for teenagers between 16 and 19 and more than 300 apprentice starts. I also want to mention affordable housing, because both in an economic and a social sense, social housing is of crucial importance and it remains an enormous priority for the government. We had already committed to invest almost £860 million in housing supply over the 3-year period to March 2015, but back in May, just a few weeks ago, the Finance Secretary announced a further £20 million for affordable housing supply, underlining the commitment we have to maximise investment in housing to the very best of our ability, because it is such a key part of physical, economic and social regeneration of the physical, economic and social fabric of the country. Accessible, affordable housing, attractive local environments, we know contribute to the wider aims we have of tackling poverty, of closing health inequalities and building confidence and capacity in communities, which is so essential to long-term and sustainable regeneration. So taking all of that into account in terms of the scale of our investment, the public sector in Scotland spends well in excess of £2 billion each year on construction. That is a massive economic and social lever, but it's only a massive economic and social lever if we spend it wisely. And that means making sure that we get value for taxpayers' money, obviously, and that we make sure that spending takes wider policy objectives into account. For example, and I've already mentioned community benefit clauses, we have to make sure that community benefit clauses are given proper and creative consideration whenever we're drawing up these contracts. And that is an issue that's not just reflected in some of the contracts I've already spoken about, but has central focus in the upcoming procurement reform bill that will be introduced to Parliament after the summer recess. That bill aims to establish a national legislative framework for sustainable public procurement that supports our economic growth but makes sure we realise the social benefit of that as well. And people will directly benefit if we get that right through increased opportunity for jobs and training through all of our major public contracts. The bill Also, it seeks to ensure that SMEs, which are the lifeblood of local communities, also have the opportunity to bid for and win public sector work. There's a lot of good practice out there, but we need to make sure that good practice is not the exception, but that is the rule, and we're spreading it as widely as possible. I think it's important to stress here, though, that establishing community benefits and infrastructure investment contracts isn't just the responsibility of the public sector. It is a big responsibility of the public sector, but we must go wider than that. So we're also encouraging the private sector to deliver community benefits, for example, as part of our Spruce Fund. The Spruce Fund, as many of you will be aware, will provide funding for infrastructure in support of regeneration outcomes and in support of local communities. The fund is, as you know, now open. It is an innovative way of using government and European structural funds to lever in significant co-investment from the public and the private sectors, providing loans or equity investment to revenue generating projects. And it's already playing a valuable role. I think it will play an increasingly valuable role in what remains a very restrained market in terms of investment finance being available for infrastructure developments. It's provided financial support already to 2 projects of 11.4 million between them, but importantly it's also unlocking construction projects valued at over £53 million. These projects, these investments will support more than 260 jobs during the construction phase, as well as providing new workspace for small businesses and for many workers. And as I've said already, this model is providing an opportunity, a very important opportunity for us to work with the private sector to encourage them to agree community benefit clauses as part of the finance agreements, something that traditionally has only been found in public sector contracts. So we've been able to ensure already that these projects will create different training and employment opportunities during their construction phase. I also want to mention this morning our regeneration strategy, Achieving a Sustainable Future. That strategy, as I'm sure all of you are very familiar with, highlights the relationship between economic development and regeneration, and it reinforces the extent to which the two are codependent. Equitable economic growth, and this is something I believe, I know everybody here will believe absolutely passionately, equitable economic growth cannot and will be achieved unless we improve our underperforming areas, unless we close the gap and deal with some of our most disadvantaged areas. So successful regeneration can't be delivered without investing in development, without growing local communities and delivering sustainable employment. And Spruce, as I've already talked about, is an important element in responding to that. Our regeneration strategy, the infrastructure investment plan, which were published at the same time, are 2 closely linked strategies, because we are making it clear, and I'll make it clear here again today, that we must ensure that every penny we spend in capital investment is spent to the benefit of the communities that we're serving. I recently had the opportunity to visit a project being delivered in what used to be my constituency, but boundary changes mean it's no longer so. A project delivered by Govan Workspace to refurbish the former Fairfield Shipyards office. And that project, and there'll be many like them across the country, was very clear evidence of the benefits of regeneration investment. A landmark building, a physical asset brought back into use to attract and give space to new businesses, to invest in the area and provide employment for local people. So physical and community regeneration coming together strongly in that one project. And when I was doing that visit, I announced the Regeneration Capital Grant Fund, which will provide £25 million for investment in new infrastructure regeneration projects. These projects rightly will be focused on areas suffering from high disadvantage. They will be intended to deliver large-scale transformational change with strong social and economic outcomes, and we've worked in partnership with COSLA to make funding available in 2014-15 for investment in these kinds of regeneration projects. That approach that we're taking to delivering this fund is a prime example of trying to ensure that social benefits are realised, always realised alongside the economic benefits of our infrastructure development. Through the fund, we're aiming to ensure that both social and economic benefits can be delivered before we commit to investing, and the fund criteria make that expressly clear. The challenge very much is for applicants to that fund to demonstrate that they will deliver not just economic benefits but also social benefits through their capital investment. The fund encourages strong community engagement, and both the regeneration strategy and the community empowerment and renewal bill make clear that commitment to community involvement. We must empower local communities to identify issues in their areas and to develop solutions to help tackle these issues. Projects that will be supported through the fund must therefore demonstrate, in addition to the social impacts I've spoken about, a strong focus in community engagement as well. I can tell you today that the Regeneration Capital Fund is now open for applications. It's open for applications this week, and for anybody who is interested, the Scottish Government website contains further details. I want to be very clear today that regeneration is fundamental to the overall purpose we have as a government, which is sustainable economic growth. The regeneration strategy looks at how we regenerate our most disadvantaged areas by addressing the economic, the physical and the social needs of those communities. It also makes clear our commitment to support physical development and focuses on a number of key interventions that are important, that are vital to help improve these disadvantaged communities. And these include, for example, land remediation, enabling infrastructure and support for town centres. And I know that Malcolm Fraser, who's leading the town centre review, is here today. The Regeneration Capital Investment Programme will provide flexibility and support to the areas that need it most, and we support organisations that we believe are best placed to deliver results, whether they be urban regeneration companies or community planning partnerships or whatever. And on the subject of urban regeneration companies, their very purpose is to link the physical investment made in their areas to the needs of the local community, and they can, and I believe are, delivering a number of positive outcomes for local people. Since 2008 we have invested around about £140 million in urban regeneration companies, and that investment has included a range of very good social benefits, 2,000 jobs, 900 training places, the creation of 85,000 square metres of business space to boost local economies. We've seen just short of 1,000 new homes, 2 primary schools built, and around 200 hectares of vacant and derelict land dealt with as well. We've also seen £144 million of private sector investment generated on the back of that public sector investment. Clyde Gateway, just as one example, is capitalising on the infrastructure investment associated with the Commonwealth Games right now to help ensure that that big sporting occasion delivers social benefits for local people. And I know you'll be hearing more about the Commonwealth Games later on. But it does, and I say this as somebody who lives in the East End of Glasgow, it is providing right now a good example of how capital investment benefits local communities. You know, the East End of Glasgow right now is undergoing a transformation, evident through the construction of the Athletes' Village, with the new homes that are part and parcel of that, many of them for social rent. Local residents will benefit from long-lasting assets, whether that's the Velodrome or the Emirates Arena, long after the Commonwealth Games as a sporting occasion have finished. We're seeing about £1 billion of transport infrastructure projects that have been accelerated and are progressing towards completion. All of that investment bringing tangible and long-lasting benefit, not just to Glasgow or to the East End of Glasgow, but to the whole of the west of Scotland, improving the connectivity of our communities, opening up major routes to our cities and helping to capitalise on economic development opportunities. So a very good example right now of how capital investment delivers that social and economic investment. I have also been very encouraged that infrastructure development and the way in which infrastructure development can be delivered by local communities for local communities. I know that the winner of this year's Surf Regeneration Award for infrastructure, the Isle of Gia Heritage Trust, did just that. It utilised the benefits of infrastructure investment to secure the future of the island, building affordable homes, taking ownership of community-owned assets, developing a wind farm, all of that improving the social, the economic and the social fabric of the island, and also helping to grow the population on the island, which will contribute to sustainable development in the future. I also recently visited Neilston Development Trust to open their new wind farm project, which through the vision and the determination of a local community trust will ensure an income stream for that community long into the future. So these are great examples of community-led regeneration, and in my experience as a constituency MSP over the years, the best regeneration, perhaps the only genuinely sustainable regeneration, is community-led, or at least regeneration which has the community that it serves at its very centre. So in conclusion, I just want to be absolutely clear to you today how important this notion of infrastructure investment delivering not just economic benefits but social and regeneration benefits is to the vision we have as a government. I hope I've demonstrated that commitment through some of what we are already achieving, but I believe we have the potential, notwithstanding the restricted capital budgets we have, to go much further and faster in future, to make community benefits the norm, not the exception, to make sure they are meaningful, to make sure they deliver not just benefits through the construction phase of projects, but they deliver transformational benefits that last well into the future. So I'm grateful to you for listening this morning. I hope you have I'm sure you will have a very interesting day, and I very much look forward to hearing the outcome of it and ensuring that your feedback is fed into our thinking as we take our plans forward into the future. Thank you very much indeed.